When a person reaches the age of 61, these things are no longer relevant. Wisdom and encouragement for senior citizens. Have you noticed that certain things that used to disturb you no longer worry you as much as they used to? Something changes as we progress through our 60s and beyond a certain point. The things that used to keep us up at night, such as how we looked, how other people perceived us, and whether or not we were accomplishing enough, begin to lose their hold on us. It is possible that you will wake up one morning and come to the realization that the pressure to prove, please, or perform is no longer something that makes sense. We are going to discuss 12 topics that are completely irrelevant after the age of 61 in this video. These are not, as the saying goes, trivial annoyances or fleeting thoughts. Your younger years were under the influence of deeply ingrained routines and concerns that quietly created you. This time, however, they are deserving of a second look because letting go of them does not equal giving up on the situation. Stepping into a life that is lighter, clearer, and significantly more your own is what it means to take this step. Therefore, if you have ever had the experience of feeling as though you were carrying weight that you could not see, now might be the time for you to let go of that feeling. It is likely that you will discover that life after the age of 61 is less about holding on and more about recognizing what to let go of. Regardless of whether it is old expectations, social conventions, or pressure that you have put on yourself, I want you to stay with me to the very end because by the time we reach the number 12, you might have a very different perspective on the season of life that you are currently experiencing. Not as a sign of downfall, but rather as a peaceful return to the things that really count. Now, let's get something going. First and foremost, what other people think of you. When a person reaches the age of 61, one of the first things that stops making sense is worrying about what other people think of them. When you were younger, it was almost like second nature to question whether you were being evaluated. To evaluate your choices based on what other people would think, or to hold back because you didn't want to be perceived in an unfavorable manner. On the other hand, at some point in time, that load begins to feel like it is not essential. As a result of having lived long enough, witnessed enough, and endured enough, you are aware that no one else except yourself can walk in your shoes. As you become older, you gain a certain kind of inner permission to be exactly who you are without having to dress it up or tone it down. This is a quiet liberation that comes with becoming older. It is not because you cease caring altogether that you experience a decrease in the desire for acceptance. Rather, it is because you come to the realization that the majority of people are actually paying very little attention. And even when they are, their opinion does not change your reality. Give it some thought. Those friends who genuinely care about you are not keeping score of your actions. Whether you wear the same shoes every day, whether your laugh is a little louder now, or whether you take a little bit longer to tell your narrative, they do not care about any of these things. The way you make them feel, as well as your presence and the wisdom you possess, are important to them. Those individuals who do pass judgment are, in the majority of cases, projecting their own insecurities onto people like you. Acquiring a sense of grounding is more important than growing indifferent to the situation. Instead of pursuing the unattainable goal of being loved by everyone, you begin to present yourself in a manner that is authentic and unabashedly you. Whether it's the way you choose to dress, the words you choose to say, or the way you choose to spend your time, you start to put more stock in your own internal compass than in the reaction of the herd. And faith, it is the thing that transforms everything. In the way that you enter a room, the way that you handle arguments, and even the way that you sleep at night, it is evident. You come to the realization that feeling at peace with who you've become is significantly more important than blending in with the crowd. The second reason is the pursuit of titles or status. A further concept that begins to lose its hold on people around the age of 61 is the notion that their worth is determined by their titles or status. The earliest stages of one's life are characterized by a significant amount of energy being invested in the pursuit of ascending ladders, gaining recognition, or being perceived as successful by the rest of the world. It appears that job titles, degrees, and social position all bear this weight that is not visible to the naked eye. The passage of time, however, causes you to become aware of something. Those labels do not adhere to you as well as they once did. When you come across people who have accomplished extraordinary things, you come to the realization that what makes them exceptional is not the things that they have accomplished. That is the person they are when no one is looking at them. In point of fact, after a certain point, people will stop asking you what you do and will instead begin to notice how you are. Would you be kind? Are you rooted in fact? Are other people able to perceive you? When they reach the age of 61 and beyond, many people start to rethink what it means to be successful. No longer is it about being the most talented person in the room. All that matters is that you be the most present, the most caring, and the most genuine. The persistent pressure to be somebody eventually gives way to a more subdued want to be oneself, free from the burdensome armor of professional titles or social designations. In addition, once that transformation takes place, the need to compete or compare will no longer be necessary. You have come to the realization that your identity is not dependent on a resume, a paycheck, or the number of people who are familiar with your name. In point of fact, some of the most content and contented people in their 70s and 80s are those who have made the decision to let go of all that noise and simply concentrate on living a good life. I would appreciate it if you could use the second comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. Number 3. Maintaining connections that are unhealthy. It is one of the most freeing facts that you will discover after the age of 61. You are no longer required to keep people in your life simply because they have always been there. The notion that loyalty is synonymous with longevity is beginning to fall apart. You start to realize that time is too valuable to be wasted managing relationships that cause more harm than good. This is true whether it is an old friend who drains your energy, a member of your family who consistently disrespects your boundaries, or someone who simply brings more worry than calm into your life. It's possible that in your younger years, you were motivated to cling on for a variety of reasons, including fear of being alone, guilt, habit, or a felt sense of obligation. However, wisdom comes with maturation. You start to become aware of the ways in which your body reacts when you are in the presence of particular individuals, such as the tightness in your shoulders, the forced laughing, and the way in which you emotionally prepare yourself before meeting them. Also, you are gradually beginning to wonder why I am continuing to do this. When you let go of relationships that are unhealthy for you, it does not mean that you are unforgiving or heartless. It indicates that you are finally prioritizing your own health and well-being, that you have won the right to choose joy over merely surviving, clarity over confusion, and serenity over pretense is a sign that you have earned their right. You start to place a higher priority on quality rather than quantity, which is something that many people who are older describe as a kind of emotional spring cleaning that occurs organically. You seek out a small number of significant connections with other people that are easy, warm, and genuine rather than a large circle of people who are filled with interactions that are superficial or stressful. Instead of pretending, you stop accommodating, and you start respecting the boundaries you set for yourself. And what is the most lovely part? You will make place for individuals who will lift you up, see you, and accept you exactly as you are once you have let go of the things that are weighing you down. Individuals who do not require you to modify your size or position in order to make them feel more at ease. After the age of 61, the freedom in question is no longer up for discussion. Putting forth too much effort and time is the fourth issue. Something is made very plain to you by the time you reach the early years of your 60s. Your time is the most valuable commodity you possess. And when you overcommit yourself, when you say yes out of habit, out of guilt, or because you are under pressure, It begins to feel like you are giving up bits of your life that you can never get back. When you were younger, you might have had the impression that it was essential to be present everywhere, to assist everyone, or to fulfill an unending number of commitments. However, at the age of 61, that equation changes. You start to realize that your time is not only important, but that it is also subject to limitations. There exists a distinction between being giving and being drained of one's resources. And a lot of people who are getting older eventually come to the realization that just because you have a busy schedule doesn't mean that you are living your life to the fullest. Simply said, it indicates that you are trying to avoid being stationary. Nevertheless, it is in that silence that you find out what is actually important. Long walks, leisurely lunches, and deep talks that don't feel hurried are some of the things that I enjoy. It is at that point that you begin to protect with a ferocious intensity. Overcommitting can occur in subtle ways, such as agreeing to assist with something when your body is requesting rest, feeling guilty about declining an invitation to a social function, or putting pressure on yourself to fulfill the expectations of others at the price of your own peace of mind. Nevertheless, beyond a certain point, you start to make decisions that are different. You realize that denial is not an act of selfishness. It is a good idea. This is an act of respect for oneself. A remarkable thing takes place when you begin to respect the boundaries you have set for yourself. This is something that those who truly matter comprehend. Individually, they do not take it to heart. They do not generate feelings of guilt in you, for the reason that they are aware that when you do show up, it is genuine, it is done with all of your heart, and it originates from a position of abundance rather than responsibility. By granting yourself permission to be picky, to leave space in your calendar, and to pause before saying yes, you are giving yourself one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself after the age of 61. Due to the fact that your time is not merely something that you invest. By doing so, you show respect for the one and only life you have. The fifth step is to reduce the appearance of wrinkles and gray hair. Attempting to remove all traces of age from your body is one of the most subtle forms of tiredness an individual can experience. And at the age of 61, a lot of individuals start to wonder why. The use of lotions, hair colors, treatments, and the urge to appear younger are all examples of this. They all hail from a world that has not yet matured to the point where it recognizes the beauty of aging gracefully. You are not here to go after the standards of a person who is 30 years old. The lines, the silver strands, and the marks that tell your tale are all yours because you have earned them. However, this does not mean that you cease caring about how you display yourself to others. However, there is a distinction between self-care and self-erasure. Between appreciating your body and being at war with it, self-care is less than self-erasure. When you reach a certain age, you start to understand that becoming older is not something that can be managed. To understand it, to appreciate it, and even to celebrate it is something that should be done. There is a particular glow that emanates from a person who has made peace with the mirror, who no longer feels the need to apologize for becoming older, but who instead carries themselves with pride, humor, and warmth. Something very extraordinary takes place when you let go of the notion that you are required to conceal your age. You gain more allure, become more genuine, and become more you. People are not drawn to perfection, which is an ironic concept. The presence of others attracts them. And when you stop trying to turn back the clock, you begin to turn up the volume on everything that is something that is uniquely you. Therefore, if you have spent years attempting to seem younger merely to feel like you are adequate, use this to be your way of saying that you are done. The fact that your skin has changed or that your hair has grayed does not make you any less a person. You are more mature, more soulful, and more complete than you were before. Moreover, there is no need to conceal anything about that. I would appreciate it if you could use the 5th comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. Sixth, forcing yourself to participate in trends that are unsettling of you. After the age of 61, the concept of keeping up with every trend, whether it be in fashion, technology, lifestyle, or even speech, starts to feel, well, stupid. There may have been a sense of pressure placed on you when you were younger to maintain your relevance, to conform to what was trendy or current at the time. Nevertheless, as time passes, you come to the realization that being trendy is not nearly as important as being comfortable, easy, and completely genuine. You decide to quit purchasing garments that look great on mannequins but are uncomfortable to wear on your own body. If you want to appear to be on top of things, you stop downloading apps that you don't care about. Aside from that, you refrain from bending yourself into whatever shape society deems to be appropriate during this season. Instead, you start selecting what feels natural to your body, to your rhythm, and to your life in general from the beginning. You have to understand that fashion is ephemeral, but style, the manner in which you carry yourself, the method in which you live, and the values that you reflect are everlasting. Those who are in their 60s, 70s, and beyond and are aware of exactly what works for them are among the most compelling people in their advanced years. It is not because it is novel, but rather because it is authentic, faithful to who they are, what they have experienced in their lives, and the things that they truly care about. Making an effort to keep up with everything will only result in tiredness and a sense of disconnection. You will make room for something that is far more profoundly aligned once you have released the pressure that you have been under. You start to ask more insightful questions. Not what is included, but what is significant. It is not that this will impress anyone, rather, is it that this feels like me? A calm joy is brought about by such change. You enter a space and immediately feel comfortable and at ease in your own flesh. It is not for the eyes of others that you dress, rather, it is for the dignity of yourself, rather than relying on the ticking clock of trend cycles or the approval of others. You live according to your own rhythm. Additionally, by doing so, you are conveying a message to everyone in your immediate vicinity. This is what it looks like to make it through the years with integrity. The seventh point is harboring resentment. After you have lived for a few decades, something takes place about you. It is then that you realize how much room resentment can take up in your life. Furthermore, by the time you reach your 60s, harboring resentment begins to feel less like a sign of strength and more like an anchor within your life. You come to the realization that the amount of energy that is required to maintain your anger, to rehash previous disagreements in your head, or to carry resentment through the years is simply not worth the amount of money that it costs you. Perhaps, when you were younger, you believed that it was necessary. It was as if you were required to cling to that recollection, that slight, that injustice as evidence that you had been mistreated, that it was significant, and that your emotions were legitimate. Over time, however, one gains perspective. One component of this viewpoint is the realization that the act of forgiving is not always about the person receiving forgiveness. Getting your freedom is the goal here. Whoever harbors a grudge is the one who is responsible for carrying it. You are the one who experiences it each time you hear their name or think back to the period of time. The question of whether or not this is how you would like to spend your days is gradually posed to you, rather of denying the reality of the situation or pretending that it did not hurt. The decision to choose peace over poison was made. When you let go, it does not mean that you validate the conduct. It does not imply that you are required to make amends. What it implies is that you are not going to allow the events of the past to take away even a single moment from your present. And once you reach this stage of life, you will have the opportunity to make a powerful choice to choose inner quiet over keeping score against others. Quite a few people who are in their later years consider forgiveness as an unanticipated gift they gave to themselves. There are several things that people say, such as, "I didn't realize how heavy it was until I finally set it down." It is evident in their appearance, the state of their health, and the gentleness of their presence. The difference between someone who has made peace and someone who is still fighting old battles is clear to anybody who observes the difference. Therefore, if there is something that you have been keeping for a long time, perhaps the moment has come to let go of it. They do not deserve it, you do. You are the one who deserves it. The 8th point is to apologize for the boundaries you have set. When you reach the age of 61, you begin to understand that establishing boundaries is not an act of selfishness but rather an important necessity. In addition, and maybe even more importantly, you have realized that it is no longer necessary to apologize or explain how you feel about them. It's possible that you've spent a significant portion of your life feeling the need to soften your no, excuse your rest, or over-explain your decisions in order to avoid disappointing other people. This is especially true if you were brought up to be agreeable, helpful, or polite. However, wisdom is something that comes with time. You start to realize that your sense of serenity is gradually being eroded by the fact that you are continually overextending yourself in order to avoid conflict or rejection. And the fact of the matter is that those who respect you do not require explanations. It is clear to them that setting a boundary is not an act of rejection but rather an act of clarity. To put it another way, this is the way that I take care of myself so that I can be present for the things that are genuinely important. Being able to say, no, I won't be able to, or, that doesn't work for me, without having to scramble to come up with excuses or reasons is a tremendously powerful ability. You get the ability to create a buffer between your choices and the responses of other people. Because you are aware, on some level, that your life is not a collaborative endeavor, rather, it is yours. Not only that, but when you stop apologizing for your requirements, something wonderful takes place. As time goes on, people begin to meet you where you are, rather than where they anticipate you to be. You serve as an example of a self-respect that encourages the development of healthier relationships. People who place a higher value on mutual understanding than on constant access start to gravitate toward you. Even when it comes to seemingly little situations, such as opting not to accept a call late at night, declining an invitation when you are in need of rest, or preserving quiet time throughout the day, you maintain your firmness without feeling guilty. Because you have been more lenient with yourself, rather than because you have become more resolute. At the age of 61, borders are no longer obstacles, rather, they are lifelines. They make it easier for you to maintain your vitality, your joy, and your capacity to present yourself in a genuine manner. You will finally be able to allow yourself the space to breathe after you stop apologizing for them. Please leave a comment below with the number 8 to let me know that you are still watching this video and that you believe these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. Evidence of your productivity comes in at number 9. A lot of people take part in a race that goes unnoticed for decades. In the race to be perceived as productive, to always be doing something, and to have something to show for each hour of the day. The appearance of that race begins to shift after the age of 61. The desire to demonstrate your value by demonstrating how busy you are starts to feel like a vacuum. You come to realize that feeling busy is not the same thing as having meaning in your life. And doing more does not necessarily result in a better quality of life. During the younger stages of life, one's identity was frequently determined by their level of productivity. When your schedule was packed, when you crossed items off your to-do list, or when other people complimented your hard work, you might have experienced a sense of validation. You begin to respect space, stillness, time to reflect, and time to simply be without the need for a cause. However, this is only just the beginning. It's possible that something that used to feel like a successful accomplishment is now just noise. When you realize that you are desiring depth rather than pace, you make the decision to focus your attention on one thing that is meaningful rather than a dozen things that will be done quickly. These slower rhythms are not an indication of sloth. They can be found in activities such as tending to a garden, writing a letter by hand, or simply sitting on the porch as the sun sets. They are a return to the things that are important. In addition, the truth is that you have already demonstrated your worth. You don't need to continue to demonstrate that your time is valuable so long as you've been showing up, working hard, giving, and making sacrifices over the years. In any situation, whether you are working or relaxing, repairing something, or simply watching the world go by, it is beneficial. Getting rid of that internal scoreboard is the first step toward achieving a more profound sort of present. Instead of judging the days by how much you've completed, you start to evaluate them based on how alive you felt while you were doing it. Not by what was accomplished, but by what was experienced, noticed, and communicated. After the age of 61, productivity is no longer a ruler but rather a tool. Utilize it when it is beneficial to you. When it does not, you finally feel free to set it down and go on with your life. Number 10. Being silent about the things that are important. Most people reach a point at the age of 61 when they no longer believe that remaining silent is prudent. As if it were a waste of time. You may have kept your mouth shut for a significant portion of your life in order to maintain peace, to avoid embarrassing situations, or because you did not believe that it was your job to speak up. However, you are beginning to realize that your voice is one of the most powerful instruments you possess, and that there is a greater cost associated with withholding it than there was in the past. It doesn't matter if you're expressing your opinion in a doctor's office, having a difficult talk with your family, or just declaring that something isn't acceptable. As you become more willing to express the truth, the issue of confrontation becomes less important and more about clarity. You are not someone who enjoys disagreement, rather, you have witnessed the consequences that arise when things are not communicated. The number of misunderstandings increases. Resentments become more resolute. As time passes, opportunities for connection are lost. As someone who has lived long enough, you are aware that sugarcoating does not benefit anyone. For this reason, you begin to prioritize honesty over harmony, kindness, and grounded honesty. Yet honesty is the only thing that matters. When you speak your thoughts, you come to the realization that it does not make you difficult, rather, it makes you authentic. It enables people to see the bigger picture rather than making assumptions about it. On the other hand, when you do talk, it is significant. Your statements are supported by years of experience that you have lived through. Not because you are exceptionally loud. When others are aware that you are not striving for attention but rather speaking from intention, they listen to you differently. When you use your voice more frequently, other people will feel more comfortable using their own voice as well. In other words, you cease altering your truth in order to make other people feel comfortable. This applies whether you are advocating for yourself, calling out something that is unfair, or simply stating what you require. This is not out of resentment, rather, it is because you have come to the realization that your quiet will not rescue anyone, but your honesty may maybe save someone. Comparing your life path to that of others is the 11th point. The knowledge that there is no typical schedule, no official scoreboard, and no universally approved checklist that informs you whether you have done life the proper way is one of the most liberating realizations that one may have after reaching the age of 61. As time goes on, you start to realize how profoundly diverse the journeys of each individual are, and how much anguish can result from the belief that you ought to have done things differently than other people. Perhaps your neighbor retired earlier than expected. Perhaps an old buddy of yours has remarried and met a new loved one. Perhaps someone else your age has recently embarked on a journey around the world or launched a business. Moreover, you might ponder for a brief period whether I have overlooked something. The more you get to know yourself, however, the more you realize that this kind of comparison detracts from the joy that you experience in the life that you already have. It was never intended for your path to resemble theirs since it was never supposed to look like theirs. You become who you are now as a result of every decision you make, every detour you take, every late start you make, and every unexpected pause you take. All of the things that you persevered through, The people you cared about, and the work that you devoted your heart to were important, despite the fact that it did not arrive with applause or moments that were picture perfect. Stop asking me if I am in the right place. Am I where I should be? And begin by asking yourself, am I being truthful with myself right now? This shift enables you to feel gratitude for your path, not because of how it appears on paper, but because of the profound ways in which it has altered you. It is not because your life suddenly becomes flawless that you experience a boost in contentment. Rather, it is because things are returning to their original state of being. Moreover, when you fully acknowledge that your time frame is your own, everything begins to feel more manageable. You begin to live each day as its own chapter, not as a test against someone else's tale, but rather as a quiet celebration of your own. The regrets begin to go away. The pressure begins to subside, and you begin to live each day as its own chapter. It's number 12. Acting as if you're not exhausted. For many people, there is a type of performance that they carry with them for decades. Persevering, powering on, and smiling through exhaustion, as if rest were a luxury rather than a necessity. However, after you reach the age of 61, pretending that you are not exhausted begins to feel like a game that you no longer want to play. To tell you the truth, you shouldn't be required to. The right to relax without feeling guilty, to sit down when your body tells you to, and to announce, I'm going to take it easy today, with full intention is something that you have earned. There is no longer any validity to the notion that your value is proportional to the amount of time that you can go without taking a break. To put it another way, it starts to feel ridiculous, seeing as how exhaustion is not a sign of weakness. It is information. It is your body's way of letting you know that something needs attention. Moreover, disregarding that message does not make you more resilient. It only makes the process of recovery more drawn out. If, on the other hand, you begin to respect your energy and become aware of the things that drain you, the things that fill you, and the rhythms that feel right, you will begin to live in a more profound harmony with yourself. It is not the case that you should cease moving or doing activities that are significant. You must quit acting like you don't exist. When you stop apologizing for things like needing a nap, missing a gathering, or stating things like, I just don't have it in me today, you stop apologizing. As a result, you experience a sense of relief rather than shame. The relief that comes from the fact that you have stopped treating your body like a machine and have instead begun treating it like a partner. When you are honest, it is beneficial to the people around you as well. It allows people to take things at a more leisurely pace, to pay attention to their own need, and to appear more completely after they have had sufficient rest. It is not until you reach the age of 61 that you realize that pacing yourself does not mean falling behind. It's a decision between burnout and sustainability instead. With addition, there is no slackness involved with that. It is a good idea. This is done on purpose. What you deserve for the years to come is this. Lastly, some thoughts. Take a time to yourself as we come to the end of this video and think about the things that struck a chord with you the most. Existed a single concept that seemed to be particularly accurate? It is a burden. Perhaps you have come to the realization that you have been carrying for a little too long. Or perhaps you have already started to feel a shift deep within your bones. But you have not yet named it. The fact of the matter is that around the age of 61, a significant amount of things that were once considered essential or crucial start to lose their significance. The tranquility, the clarity, and the honesty that you have been working toward are the things that you have been working toward all along. Giving up is not the same thing as letting go of something that no longer makes sense. It has to do with coming back, returning to oneself, to what is important, to the kind of life that feels lived rather than managed is the goal of this endeavor. At this point, I have a question for you. From among these 12 things, which one are you most prepared to let go of? Or, which one have you already let go of? And how has that been a transformative experience for you? It would be wonderful to get your feedback. We appreciate you being here with us today. It would be wonderful if you could get in touch with us. Please leave a comment below and tell us about one item you discovered today and how you intend to put it to use in your life right now. We place a high value on your opinions, so please do not be reluctant to share them with us. Our inspiration and encouragement are greatly increased as a result of reading your remarks. I would appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it to be informative and enjoyable. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. We appreciate you taking the time to watch, and we hope to see you in the future video.